A lottery win does not always bring celebration. Sometimes it triggers secrets so deep they can split a family in half. One winner froze her ticket, so her own relatives would never find it. Another claimed millions through a hidden trust, so his parents stayed in the dark. And one walked into work the next morning acting broke, even though he had more money than everyone in the building combined. So here's a real question. If you held a winning ticket tonight, who would you tell and who would you lie to? Subscribe so you never miss the stories most winners are terrified to admit. Number 8. The mother who hid her $1 million ticket in a freezer. In 2012, an anonymous mother from the small town of Eunice, Louisiana, walked into a convenience store after a late shift, bought a Powerball ticket without a second thought, and took it home like she had done dozens of times before, never imagining it held a $1 million prize. The next morning, surrounded by the usual chaos of lunch boxes, school bags, and unpaid bills on the counter, she checked the numbers and felt the air leave her lungs when every digit matched. And instead of celebrating or telling her relatives who had a habit of borrowing money, stirring drama, and treating her struggles as normal, she grabbed a Ziploc bag, sealed the winning ticket inside, and hid it deep in the freezer behind frozen vegetables, knowing that nobody in her extended family ever cooked or cleaned enough to find it. For months, she lived a double life, going to work with a secret worth 7 figures, sitting next to a bag of peas. And even when the Louisiana lottery confirmed that a $1 million winner had not yet come forward, she stayed silent because she understood that sharing the news too early would bring every cousin, sibling, and long-lost relative to her door claiming they just needed help for a little while. So she waited until she had met with a financial advisor privately, paid off quiet debts, and made a plan to secure her children's future before finally showing up at the Louisiana Lottery headquarters in Baton Rouge to claim her prize anonymously, leaving officials stunned at how long she had waited. To this day, her identity has never been released. Her relatives still do not know why her life suddenly stabilized, and the only people who ever benefited from the win were the children she protected, proving that sometimes secrecy is the only thing standing between a blessing and the people who could ruin it. Number 7. The Canadian mechanic who pretended he was still broke. In 2004, Quebec auto mechanic Alan Bolduc walked into a small dépanneur on his way home, bought a Lotto 649 ticket along with a pack of cigarettes, and tossed the ticket into his pocket without thinking, then checked the numbers the following day and discovered he had won $7 million, a number so large it didn't feel real. But instead of celebrating, he woke up the next morning, put on the same grease-stained uniform, drove the same rattling pickup with a cracked windshield, and clocked into. Determined to protect himself from the tidal wave of pressure he knew was coming, Alan met privately with lawyers, created numbered companies to purchase property so no one could trace the assets to him, and refused to upgrade anything in his daily life. Not his truck, not his clothes, not even the tools he worked with, because he understood that the moment he showed one sign of wealth, the people who ignored him yesterday would try to write themselves into his future. For years, he maintained the facade, avoiding vacations, continuing overtime shifts, and living as though money was still tight, while quietly building a secure financial foundation behind the scenes. And when his win finally became public through provincial disclosure records, angry relatives demanded to know why he hid it from them. But Alan did no explanations to people who only cared when money was involved. And by then his life was already structured beyond their reach, proving that sometimes the smartest thing a winner can do is pretend nothing has changed at all. Number 6. The Florida winner who claimed his jackpot through a silent trust. When 20-year-old Shane Missler from Port Richey, Florida, checked his Mega Millions ticket in January 2018 and realized he had just won $451 million, he understood almost immediately that the money itself was not the problem. The real danger was what would happen when relatives, acquaintances, and distant connections discovered he had become a multimillionaire overnight, especially at an age when people assume you can be influenced, guilt, or controlled. So instead of rushing to claim the prize, he met quietly with attorneys and created a legal entity called the Secret 007 Trust to shield his identity and prevent relatives from accessing sensitive financial details. When he finally walked into the Florida Lottery headquarters in Tallahassee, he didn't show up with family members or friends, just his legal team, allowing the trust to sign the paperwork while he stayed behind a barrier of legal anonymity that most winners don't realize they need until it's too late. Because Florida law requires a lottery to release a winner's name, his identity eventually became public. But by the time relatives learned about the jackpot through news reports, the trust had already secured every asset. While many imagine a young winner rushing into luxury and chaos, Shane made deliberate, careful moves that prevented relatives from treating him like a walking wallet, proving that sometimes the smartest way to protect yourself is to separate your public face from your financial reality long before anyone asks for a single penny. Number 5. The newlywed who hid her win from her husband. In 1996, Los Angeles resident Denise Rossi stunned the California courts when it was revealed she had won a $1.3 million state lottery jackpot and then filed for divorce just 11 days later, hiding the prize from her husband, Thomas, with a level of secrecy that still stands as one of the most notorious cases in lottery history. Because while the public first learned about her win 2 years after the payout began, Denise spent those years cashing checks sent to a private P.O. box of lottery, created at her request, keeping her lifestyle unchanged so her husband would never question the sudden shift in their finances. And according to court documents, she even asked the lottery office to withhold her identity from public release due to marital difficulties. A phrase that later became the centerpiece of the case when Thomas discovered her secret through a letter mistakenly delivered to their old home advertising services for lottery winners who wanted to convert annuity payments into lump sums. He had been blindsided, unaware that during their entire divorce process, she had knowingly violated California's mandatory financial disclosure laws by hiding what the court considered a marital asset. And when he confronted her in court, Denise tried arguing that she had hidden the win because she feared he would try to claim the money, but the judge didn't buy it, ruling that her deception amounted to fraud and ordering her to forfeit every remaining payment, meaning Thomas received 100% of the prize she had tried so desperately to keep for herself, turning a secret she thought would buy her freedom into the very thing that cost her everything, and making her story one of the clearest examples of how quickly a lottery win can unravel when trust is traded for silence inside a marriage. Number 4. The office worker who lied about a work bonus. In 2014, an anonymous office worker from Columbus, Ohio stunned lottery officials by quietly claiming a $50 million Mega Millions jackpot through a lawyer, disappearing from public record almost instantly. But what made his story unforgettable wasn't the prize. It was how he kept it hidden from his own family by convincing them he had simply received a small work bonus, something his relatives never questioned because his job regularly handed out minor annual incentives that barely covered car, repairs, or holiday expenses. And he used that believable cover to mask why he suddenly paid off lingering debts, upgraded appliances one at a time, and renovated small corners of his home without drawing attention, moves that allowed him to improve his life while avoiding the chaos he knew his relatives would bring if they learned he had millions. And according to legal filings released later, he went as far as keeping the same car, the same schedule, and the same holiday habits, so no one suspected anything, meeting privately with advisors to purchase real estate under an LLC and investing in index funds using custodial accounts that did not reveal his name, all while telling his family he was finally catching up financially, a line they accepted because they had long viewed him as the responsible one who managed money better than anyone else. Until years later, distant documentation confirmed that an anonymous Ohio winner had used a trust to collect a Mega Millions jackpot during the exact period of his so-called bonus. And while his identity remains protected by state law, the story circulated through financial forums and local reporting as a rare case where a winner managed to upgrade every corner of his life without ever triggering suspicion among relatives who would have turned his good fortune into their personal wish list. Number 3. The brother who refused to share after a lifetime of being used. When 19-year-old Jonathan Vargas from Gaston, South Carolina won a staggering $35.3 million Powerball jackpot in 2008, his life flipped overnight. But instead of being celebrated by relatives, his win became a test of every strained relationship he had carried since childhood because his family had always viewed him as the one who would figure life out on his own while leaning on him emotionally and financially whenever they were in trouble. And the moment the news broke, those same relatives began surrounding him with promises, demands, and guilt-soaked manipulation, pushing him to buy houses, pay debts, and fund business ideas they claimed would help everyone. But Jonathan, young, inexperienced, and overwhelmed, quickly realized that none of these offers were about love or loyalty. They were about access to his bank account, leading him to step back, hire a financial advisor, and quietly distance himself from the relatives who had used him long before the jackpot entered his life. And while his story later became known for his short-lived attempt to create a women's wrestling show funded with part of his winnings, what most people overlook is how intensely he guarded the majority of his prize from family pressure, choosing to limit contact. And though the public often remembers him for the unusual business venture that followed, the deeper truth is that Jonathan's experience became a cautionary tale about how quickly family ties can twist when money enters the picture, proving that sometimes the bravest thing a winner can do is refuse to let a lifetime of being used continue into their future, even when walking away comes with criticism, rumors, and resentment from the very people who never supported him until the moment he became rich. Number 2. The anonymous American winner protected by a trust nobody could trace. One of the most famous secret jackpot stories in American history began in Merrimack, New Hampshire in 2018, when a woman known only as Jane Doe won $559.7 million and instantly understood that revealing her identity would turn her life into a magnet for distant relatives, old acquaintances, and anyone who saw her as their personal financial solution. So instead of signing the back of her ticket, which would have forced her name into the public record, she hired a legal team and took the unprecedented step of suing the New Hampshire Lottery Commission to remain anonymous, and court filings revealed why. Her family had a long history of internal disputes, inheritance fights, and manipulation during hard times, dynamics she feared would explode if they learned she had won more money than most states' budget in a year. After weeks of national coverage, the court ruled in her favor, allowing her to claim the prize through the Good Karma Family Trust, a structure that shielded her identity so thoroughly that even certain financial institutions processing the funds never saw her real name, and while the public speculated endlessly about who she was, she quietly donated significant portions of her winnings to New England nonprofits, secured her home with private security upgrades, and kept her daily routine almost unchanged, leaving relatives, including some she regularly saw during holidays, completely unaware that the woman sitting at their dinner table had the financial power to transform every life in a room. Her attorneys later described the case as one of the clearest examples of a winner who wasn't motivated by greed, but by survival, someone who understood that a sudden fortune wouldn't fix her family. It would fracture beyond repair. And by protecting her identity through a trust no relative could trace, she became one of the few Americans in lottery history to win $500 million without sacrificing her privacy, her relationships, or her peace. Number 1. The black sheep who vanished after her jackpot finally set her free. The youngest daughter, the one expected to figure things out on her own, the one whose success never seemed to matter but whose mistakes became dinner table gossip. And when she quietly won $2 million from Missouri lottery scratch-off ticket in 2016, she didn't scream, didn't jump, didn't even call a friend. She sat in her car behind a grocery store for almost an hour, replaying in her mind every birthday she spent alone, every emergency her family ignored, every time she needed help and heard excuses instead. And with that history pressing on her chest, she made a decision that would redefine her entire life. She was telling no one. She claimed the prize anonymously through the Missouri Lottery's privacy protections that allowed smaller jackpot winners to conceal their identity. She continued living exactly as she always had. Same job, same clothes, same old car, while quietly paying off her debts, buying a modest home several counties away, and setting up a savings plan that would allow her to leave the life where she had always been invisible. The Missouri Lottery confirmed the win, but her name was never revealed. Some winners hid their jackpots out of fear. Others hid them out of survival. And a few walked away from everyone they knew the moment money finally gave them the exit they never had. If you hit the jackpot tomorrow, who would you trust? And who would you keep at a distance? Subscribe and stay with us. The next story goes even deeper.